Welcome to Film Flicks Recaps. Today we are going to explain American mystery film, Knives Out. The film begins in the home of Harlan Thrombey, a wealthy mystery novelist. When his housekeeper, Fran, arrives with food, she discovers Harlan is dead with his throat slit. Marta Cabrera, Harlan's nurse, receives a phone call from Walt Thrombey, Harlan's youngest son, 1 week after his death. He calls Marta because the police will question all of Harlan's family and friends about how he died. When they arrive, the police start questioning Linda Drysdale, the oldest daughter of Harlan. Interrogating them are Trooper Wagner of the police, Detective Lieutenant Elliott of the Detective Division, and Benoit Blanc, a private investigator hired anonymously to look into the case. They continue to question Linda's husband, Richard Drysdale, Walt, Joni Thrombey, Harlan's deceased son Neil's widow, and Meg Thrombey, Joni's daughter. They are all questioned in 2 sessions, the first by Elliott and the second by Blanc. Elliott's questioning reveals the timeline of Harlan's presumed death on the night of his 85th birthday party, to which he invited his entire family to his Massachusetts mansion. Blanc concludes from his interrogation that Harlan's family relationships were strained. In the next scene, it was shown that almost all family members who were interviewed and investigated lied when answering questions and were known to have a strong motive for killing Harlan. Richard, his son-in-law, was known to argue with him in the morning because he was caught with a mistress. Walt was fired after attempting to adapt Harlan's book into a film and television series. Joni appears to have doubled Meg's school funds while halting Harlan's funds. On the eve of his birthday, he argued with his grandson, Ransom, and revealed that he had changed his will, removing Ransom as a beneficiary. Joni was enraged by his father in decision laws to discontinue his monthly allocation. Harlan completely shattered the foundations of this family, but each family member managed to play their roles so well that family members hid the flaws during the investigation. At first, the detectives concluded that this was a typical family case and that things would return to normal. While walking around the house, Detective Benoit notices Marta, Harlan's nurse, acting strangely. Detective Benoit questions her about Harlan's death, how long she has worked for Harlan, and how much she is paid. It all started with Harlan's birthday tradition of playing Go on his birthday night. When Marta was about to win the match, Harlan accidentally dropped the Go board along with the drugs. Marta continued the game by injecting the usual drugs. He also gave Harlan 3 milligrams of morphine after surgery, as was his custom. When she checked the morphine bottle, she was surprised to find it empty because it had been mislabeled with another drug. Panicking because the dose was lethal, she looked for an antidote but couldn't find one. Marta attempted to call 911 with only 10 minutes remaining, but Harlan stopped her because there would be insufficient time. This is how it all began. Harlan, concerned that Marta would be detained, especially because her mother was an undocumented immigrant, had devised a plan to clear Marta of all charges. With the mystery writer's background, he also tells the story step by step before finally committing suicide by slashing his neck. Blanc is unaware that Harlan's nurse, Marta Cabrera, accidentally overdoses him with morphine after the birthday celebration and cannot find an antidote, giving him only a few minutes to live. Harlan instructs Marta to create a false alibi to protect her, then slits his throat. Marta obeys Harlan, but Harlan's mother, Great Nana, thinks she's Ransom when she gets down from the window. Marta couldn't lie without puking first, so when Blanc questioned her, she gave correct but incomplete answers. Blanc requests Marta's aid with his investigation. As they search the property, she conceals evidence of her actions, destroying surveillance camera tapes, tampering with her footprints in Harlan's yard, and even throwing the broken trellis she broke that night. As Marta and Blanc continue investigating Harlan's room, they notice a despicable Ransom enter the house and are greeted by Harlan's dog. Before reading Harlan's will, the entire family gathers in the living room and receives a new hint from Jacob, who had been in the bathroom for an extended period that night. Harlan and Ransom were arguing in the bathroom next to Jacob's. He only heard Harlan's declaration of his will and Ransom's threats to his grandfather. Ransom finally admits that Harlan was planning to remove him from the will, causing chaos. Meanwhile, Blanc and Marta leave the house, only to discover one of Harlan's dogs carrying the broken trellis Marta had thrown away. As a result, they rush back upstairs to continue their investigation at the trick hall window and uncover some new evidence. Marta is the sole beneficiary of Harlan's will, much to everyone's surprise. Harlan's family members, who were once kind to Marta, have now turned against her. The entire family attacks her until Ransom appears out of nowhere to assist her in escaping the family's wrath. He takes her to a restaurant, but it turns out that Ransom tricks her into confessing to him because he knows Marta cannot lie. Finally, he offers help for a share of the inheritance. On the same night, the other Thrombeys try to persuade Marta to give up the inheritance. The next day, word spread that Marta had received Harlan's inheritance, and a large crowd gathered around her house. Marta plans to leave her house through the back door but is surprised when Walt threatens to reveal her mother's immigration status if she does not renounce the inheritance. Surprisingly, she receives a blackmail note containing a portion of Harlan's toxicology report, which she then shows to Ransom. Marta and Ransom arrive at the medical examiner's office, but the office is destroyed by fire. At the same time, she receives an email inviting her to meet with the blackmailer. Blanc and the cops, on the other hand, notice them from a distance. After a brief car chase, Ransom is arrested, and Blanc says Harlan's mother saw him climbing down from his room the night he died. Marta drives Blanc to the meeting point and lets him wait in the car. Marta arrives and finds Fran drugged. Fran admits to having a copy of Harlan's toxicology report, but her condition prevents her from speaking further. Marta then performs CPR and calls an ambulance. Marta confesses to Blanc, but Blanc tells her that Ransom has already informed them what she has done. Marta discovers a copy of the full toxicology report in Fran's marijuana storage at home. Blanc stops Marta from telling the Thrombi she killed Harlan after reading the report. Blanc takes Martha to another room with the detectives and police to explain everything. Blanc tells Officer Wagner to keep the family from entering the room and asks to bring Ransom into the room. Ransom enters and apologizes to Martha, but Detective Blanc says that the Thrombi is a group of people who are good at twisting facts. Detective Blanc describes the drug that was administered to the late Harlan. Detective Blanc reveals that everything Marta has done is correct and that she was not involved in any way in this case. Meanwhile, Ransom is skeptical and asks Detective Blanc if there is evidence and who can vouch for the truth. Blanc explains that Harlan died not because of an unintentional medical error but because of a stab wound to his neck, indicating that he had committed suicide. This is proved by the fact that when the family members confessed immediately exposed the lies of each family member via flashback scenes, but not Ransom. He is only known to have been removed from the family heirs list. As Blanc explains, the next clue is how Harlan's mother, Nana, who saw Marta, said, "You're back again, Ransom?" This demonstrates Ransom sneaks into his grandfather's study room to carry out his heinous plan. During his conversation with Marta, he revealed that he frequently assisted his grandfather in researching materials for writing mystery novels. This also gives him the ability to construct near-perfect plans and knowledge of the Slayer rule, which states that if an heir is proven to have killed the heir, the inheritance can be annulled. He returned from his emergency window, and we discovered Harlan's mother. His great-grandmother. So it turns out that Martha's injected drugs were correct, and Harlan was supposed to be healthy by that point. Martha's true sense of nurse care was Harlan's, and Martha could only recognize the cure by the weight and fluid content of the drug, even without reading the labels. So, Martha is not at all responsible for Harlan's death. Harlan was reported dead of natural causes, and Ransom later hired Blanc without disclosing his identity to investigate and prove that Martha was Harlan's killer. Blanc must understand that Martha cannot lie because Ransom told her so. Ransom returned home, which was then empty, to help him smooth out his plan. Everyone goes to funerals here. Ransom has returned Martha's morphine. France was unexpectedly still at home, and she saw Ransom. Ransom returned to Harlan's blood toxicology letter, which was entirely natural. Ransom finally realized there was no sign of Harlan's intoxication because Martha had unconsciously given Harlan the correct remedy. Ransom then destroyed the evidence before sending Martha a blackmail letter. Ransom then set fire to the forensics office to destroy Harlan's blood test evidence, which would have proven Martha innocent. He eventually tracked down France and injected a large dose of morphine into his body. The location was emailed to Martha as part of Ransom's plan to frame Martha for Fran's murder. Ransom is still confident despite the blank analysis because they will not have enough evidence to catch Ransom. Fran is now the only hope in the hospital's intensive care unit. Soon after, Martha received a call from the hospital informing her of Fran's condition. Marta traps Ransom by claiming Fran is still alive despite the lack of solid evidence. Believing that Marta confessed all her crimes because she didn't vomit. Marta had been holding back her vomit long enough for Trooper Wagner to record all of Ransom's confessions, unbeknownst to him. Marta dupes Ransom into confessing by lying about Fran's safety and threatening to drag Ransom away. Marta immediately threw up in front of Ransom after he confessed and vowed vengeance, revealing a lie. Enraged, Ransom attacks Marta with a knife, only to discover that it is a retractable stage knife. Ransom is detained after the police have recorded his confession, and Marta is watching from Harlan's house, now her home. Even Linda would finally know from Harlan's secret letter that her husband is cheating. Tell us what you like the most about this film in comment section. Also, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next video.